At the end of November 2019, I contracted the new coronavirus. At that time, I decided to seek treatment at the nearest hospital to my home, but my doctor told me that the hospital could no longer receive more patients due to the outbreak. This frustrated me because I knew that the neo-coronavirus could pose a serious threat to my health. Hospitals have always been a place I hated, and I felt uncomfortable with the environment and medical procedures there. I chose to stay home. I also purchased some over-the-counter medications in hopes of relieving some of my symptoms and regaining my health. At home, I was isolated in my own room. My family would provide me with food on time to help me stay rested and nourished. After a week, I felt weaker and weaker, and my breathing difficulties became worse. I finally couldn't hold on anymore, and my family decided to take me to the hospital. Accompanied by my family, I was rushed to the hospital. Upon entering the hospital, the doctor tested me and the results came back positive. The doctors decided to take measures to ensure my respiratory function. They put me on a respirator, which would help maintain my normal breathing. As a result of the disease and the medication, my consciousness began to fade and my body felt very weak. Over the next few days, my memory became confused and fuzzy. Although my memory is fuzzy, I know that the medical staff was working hard to provide me with treatment during this time, and they kept adjusting the respirator settings to make sure I was getting an adequate supply of oxygen. One night in the middle of the night, when I woke up, I found myself floating above my own body. Like a bystander, I could clearly see the doctors and nurses rushing into my room as they seemed to be administering emergency treatment to me. This state made me feel excited and curious. I began to explore my surroundings and I was free to move around the room. The doctors were performing various first aid measures on me to try to save my life. I did not feel scared or nervous. Instead, I enjoyed the sense of freedom and I decided to use this opportunity to look around. I observed the various activities going on in the hospital. I saw patients in other wards, some receiving treatment and some interacting with their families. I also saw doctors and nurses busy in different areas. Some were checking reports and others were performing surgeries. As I was preparing to leave the hospital, I suddenly noticed the presence of a man. He gave off a dazzling white glow and looked as if he was made of light. This sight surprised me because I had never experienced anything like it before. Although I did not have any religious beliefs before, I now felt a mysterious presence. People often say that after death we will see what we long to see. But for me, this statement did not apply, because all I expected was to rest permanently and end everything for me completely. I decided to communicate with him. I asked him, "Who are you?" He smiled and replied, "My name is not important, you can consider me as your guide. I can give you some help and guidance until you return to your body." Although I was confused about his identity, I decided to accept his help and guidance. He seemed to possess a wisdom and power that could guide me in the right direction and help me better understand myself and the world. He suddenly placed a hand on my shoulder. Under his guidance, we began to rise in a straight line along the ceiling. This state of movement did not give me any sense of fear, as if fear did not exist in this world. We ascended very quickly and soon we were out of the hospital. As we continued our ascent, we left the Earth's atmosphere. I could see the stars shining around us. I suddenly asked if I could visit the moon. He smiled and replied, "Of course you can." So we moved toward the moon at a very fast pace. I saw the gray surface of the moon, the craters and mountains. I felt the serenity and mystery of the moon, which is completely different from the sight of the earth. I gazed at this ancient and beautiful planet. I gazed at the mountains on the moon, which seemed more prominent than those on Earth. Their outlines were clearly visible. These mountains may have been formed by an impact event, and they give the moon its unique geomorphic features. I then asked him what else you could do as my guide. He gently replied that, within reason, I could answer some questions and provide some guidance. I can also take you to other places, but there are some places I can't take you to, like heaven and hell. Because you are now only a visitor, you are not allowed to enter unless accompanied by someone greater than me. Hearing his answer, I felt both excited and curious. I began to think about the things and areas I wanted to learn about, hoping to get more answers from him. I asked a lot of questions. Who are the people greater than you? Is there life in other galaxies? Is God real? He laughed out loud and then began to answer. Greater than I am the Creator and those He has entrusted to me. I can't heal your body. But they can. I can't show you the future, but they can. I can't open the gates of heaven, but they can. I was shocked by his answer. Then, he answered my second question. The number of planets is close to infinity. For some strange reason, many humans think they are the smartest and most advanced, when in fact they are not. Life had flourished throughout the universe for centuries before man was created. Then he answered the question about whether God is real. The great Creator is real. And many people in your world call him God. Mankind often does things that hurt each other, which grieves the Creator very much. He has reminded you countless times to love one another, but most people still refuse to listen. I was so ashamed to hear his words, because I too had acted in my life in a way that hurt others. When I asked him if I could visit another living planet, he replied, "Sure, let's go." He once again put his hand on my shoulder. And we left the moon and began to move toward our destination. Another planet gradually appeared in front of us. I could see that this planet had a circular protective shield on the outside, as if it were a barrier, protecting the planet. Just when I felt like I was about to hit the protective shield, we surprisingly went right through it. We landed in a beautiful park. All around us were very tall people with very fair skin that gave off a distinctive glow. These people were the inhabitants of the planet and they looked different from us. I saw small transports going through the air. The shapes of these transports were so peculiar that I could not accurately describe whether they were airplanes or cars. They seemed to be a form of transportation that combined the characteristics of both. I was also fascinated by the architecture on this planet. They are completely different from the buildings on Earth. Each made of various colors of glass or crystal. Amazingly, the color of these buildings changes every few minutes. When I tried to talk to the residents here, my guide told me that they could not see me. He explained that this was a protective measure to prevent interspecies knowledge pollution. Although I didn't quite understand his words, I understood that the Creator had his own reasons for not wanting us to have direct communication. I gazed at my guide and asked, full of doubts, if there were other planets like this one. He replied in the affirmative, yes, there are many. As I said before, there are more than you can count. The guide went on to say, I can take you to another planet, and then I have to bring you back to Earth. When we arrived at the other planet, I saw a wide river. Next to the river were 3 tall pyramids. Curious, I asked my guide if we were in Egypt. His answer surprised me, no, we are not on Earth. These pyramids are older than the pyramids on Earth and they come from the same builders. I was shocked to hear his answer. It was amazing that these pyramids were older than the ones on Earth, and that they were built by the same builders. I was curious to ask, aren't they not able to communicate with each other? Why could they build pyramids on Earth? He explained to me that there was a time when many different species were allowed to visit the Earth. However, the Creator later realized that this had a negative impact on the natural development of mankind and therefore established the present rules. The wizard told me that the Creator considered mankind to be his proudest masterpiece and also his greatest mistake. Although the Creator has infinite patience, there are limits. He has cleaned out a portion of the earth to restore balance. He may also take similar action again in the future. I was shocked and disturbed to hear these words. It made me realize that the actions of humans on Earth can have far-reaching effects on our entire planet. As I prepared to continue asking more questions, my guide placed his hand on my shoulder. When I opened my eyes again, I found myself back in a hospital bed. The doctor came up to me and said, "Welcome back." I noticed that the respirator had been removed. The doctor told me that I had had an allergic reaction to the intravenous medication, which, combined with my pneumonia, had complicated my breathing problems. In effect, I had experienced death. I was clinically dead for more than 3 minutes. The news left me with mixed emotions. For days later, I left the hospital. This experience completely changed my beliefs. I am now convinced that there is a creator of the universe who is the creator and ruler of everything. He has wisdom and power beyond our imagination. This experience also made me understand that we are not alone and that we are not the only intelligent beings. There are numerous species and civilizations in the universe. We are not the center of the universe, but one of its components. More importantly, I learned the importance of loving each other. If we cannot learn how to live in peace and respect each other, we may face the fate of being cleansed. The Creator has the power to start over, and we must be aware of our responsibility and mission. This experience has inspired me to become a positive person. This experience has given me important lessons and insights. It will forever be engraved in my heart and influence every choice and action I make in life.